Good afternoon and welcome back to our I'm a Celeb Live that we're doing every week. Of course, we've got Jake back in the room, runner-up from 2014. All good. We've had another crazy week, it would seem. And it's the big eviction night tonight. So who do you think's going?
Well, obviously, you can't not talk about the elephant in the room with Matt. Will he go? Will he stay? Personally, I think he's done a lot of trials. He's come across as well as he possibly can in there. Most of the people have taken to him. Will he go? I don't know. I don't think he will. I think the general public will keep him in. And it's usually somebody I think that kind of goes under the radar that goes out first. Not necessarily somebody that's unliked. It's maybe just somebody that's not been featured as much as everyone else. So one of the quiet ones, unfortunately, maybe a Charlene, maybe a Scarlett. I think possibly one of those two could possibly go tonight, which is a shame because they've not necessarily done anything wrong. They've just been quiet and not had as much airtime. But yeah, the controversial ones usually stay in for a bit longer.
Well, that's it, isn't it? I think this time it's obviously you're voting to save, aren't you? You're not voting to evict. So
yeah,
someone like Charlene, who is the bookie's favourite at the moment, like you say, might go under the radar.
Yeah.
But if Matt doesn't leave, like we're predicting, how do you think that's going to impact the rest of the camp?
I think they will all be absolutely terrified. I think they'll be thinking, what is going on? How is Matt Hancock still in the jungle over us? What have we done wrong? It'll get them all overthinking. It'll get them all thinking, God, do I need to play this differently? You might see a bit of a change in how people react to Matt and treat Matt. Will they start being nicer to him because they think, oh my God, he might be liked? So I think it'll do a lot to the dynamic in the camp. To be honest, I think it'll do a hell of a lot. So that'll be really interesting to see if people do start acting differently if Matt is saved, which I do at the minute. I do think he will be. I think he'll be saved for a couple of evictions and then he'll probably leave. That's what you would think. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the whole dynamic of the camp changes once that's happened.
Well, that's it. It'll be a bit of a mind game. You know, if you're kicked out before Matt Hancock, you'd almost be a bit annoyed at yourself.
Yeah, I don't even think annoyed at yourself because you've gone in there. As long as you've gone in there and been yourself and you've kind of been true to who you are, you can't really complain. There's, like I said, there's not the ones that are kind of thought they might be going out, the Charlenes and Scarletts. Like I said, they've not done anything wrong. They've just, apart from Charlene not sleeping in the RV, and that just shows, like, the general public are like, right, she's doing a trial. She's not sleeping in the RV. Let's get her doing a trial. That's probably the only thing that she's done. There's obviously been a little bit of like behind Matt's back between certain people, kind of discussing Matt, but is it wrong to do that? Probably not. I think the whole of the nation have been doing that at home, kind of discussing what they think of the situation. So yeah, it's going to be a weird one, and I'm very, very interested to watch tonight to see who does go out first.
Yeah, it should be a good one. We've just seen the infamous beach party that we knew Owen desperately wanted to go on.
Yeah.
He's clearly not coping very well with his hunger at all. How does that feel? Like, can you relate to that when you were in there?
You know what? I think because I got in the mindset that I was doing I'm Celebrity Get Me Out of Here. I knew that I was going to be hungry. So I didn't let it affect me. I was eating my rice and beans. Saying that, we did eat quite well every night. We always got a lot of stars. So that could be different for Owen. But yeah, he does seem to be struggling. He's a big old boy, though. Do you know what I mean? He's been hitting the gym. So he's used to a lot of protein and that. So maybe he is getting very hungry. But personally, for me, I was just like, you know what? Let's just crack on. Like, we're hungry. We're not going to die of starvation. Do you know what I mean? We're just going to have to get through it, eat our rice and beans. Because I just kept thinking there's actually people that really do suffer with this kind of stuff and who go hungry. So I'm not going to sit here and moan. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, like the hunger does affect certain people differently, as does the sleep. And you see people in the final week starting to get a bit grumpier or a bit snappier because they are hungry or they are really tired. So yeah, it definitely affects everybody in different ways, I guess.
Yeah, it does. I mean, we've seen people go into the jungle and come out looking like a completely different person. So do you think what's going to happen to Owen? Like, is he going to see a change in his physique after, starving and stuff?
Yeah, I imagine if he's in there for another week to 10 days, I don't know how long's left, but he's definitely, his physique will change. Like I say, he's not got much fat to lose. He's in very good shape. He's got a lot of muscle, and that muscle will probably start kind of decreasing and getting smaller, and he might come out a little bit smaller, but yeah, he's a healthy guy. Like he's gonna put it all straight back on when he gets home and has a few mixed grills or something. Do you know what I mean? A few fillet steaks, he'll be fine.
I think the main question that everyone's wondering, will he lose that six-pack?
Nah, the six-pack ain't going nowhere. I got more of a six-pack when I lost my weight in the jungle, so that might just get even more defined.
So did you notice changes then when you went in?
Yeah, I lost over a stone when I went in. Yeah, and I was quite a bit bigger when I went in, and I came out really skinny. But yeah, like it's what you expect. You're doing the jungle, you're probably only on 1,000 calories a day because you're eating rice and beans, so you're not doing much. You're sat around and kind of sweating and stuff like that. Yeah, so if you're not eating, you're gonna be in a calorie deficit. You're gonna lose a bit of weight. So I think everybody will be surprised how their bodies have changed.
Yeah, it's been 2 weeks now, and we're sort of seeing, especially the hardcore anti-Matt Hancock celebs that are in there. We've gradually sort of seen a change in how they interact with him, and they're almost warming to Matt. People like Chris and things like that just didn't want anything to do with him at the start. They're almost beginning to be like, he's actually all right. Do you think that that's transferred out of the camp and members of the public are warming to him now?
I think certain people are definitely warming to him. I think what I tried to do is I tried to kind of split between the Matt Hancock that we all knew from the lockdowns and stuff like that should be at work, who probably shouldn't be in the jungle, and then the guy that's gone into the jungle and then been thrown into all these trials and kind of a bit of a frosty kind of welcome from the campmates, and try and work out what I think of those two people separately. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's what a lot of the camp members did. They probably didn't like him for what happened, but then they're stuck in a camp with him, and you can't really get away from it. So you've got to get to know somebody, and I do think some people are starting to like him. I'll continue to say probably shouldn't be in there. He probably should be doing his job back here, but he's in there now, and I think people have given him more of a chance. But I think there will be people that, no matter how many stars he wins, he won't be forgiven for what happened. Do you know what I mean? By certain people. So yeah, there's been a bit of a shift, and again, we'll see how that kind of plays out with the votes, and if he's voted out first or if he's not, or how far he gets. That's going to show how many people in the public have kind of taken to him.
Yeah, and why do you think people stopped voting him to do the challenges?
Because he was smashing it. They wanted the camp to go hungry, so there's more arguments. So there was no point of voting. Like you saw when Baba, George, and Chris did it, they were absolutely terrible. Terrible. They made him look like Indiana Jones. Do you know what I mean? So they were like, there's no point of voting Hancock. He's winning the stars, he's doing well, and probably by doing that, he was increasing his popularity outside of the jungle. So people probably thought, no, let's give it to someone else. Hopefully they won't win any stars. Then they'll go hungry. Then there'll be a bit more arguing, because that's what everyone likes to see.
Yeah. And speaking of George, we're starting to see that we sort of knew from the start that he was going to be a bit of a diva, and there might have been a few arguments. But I think we're really starting to see now that there might soon be an eruption for him. And we saw it a little bit when Scarlett brought up his story from a few years ago about the handcuffs. Do you think that was right of Scarlett to bring it up in that moment?
I think you're stuck in a jungle for 24 hours a day, and you talk about your lives with each other, and there's no right or wrong moment to bring up things that you've read or things that you've heard, and if it's all, everyone else has been doing it with other people and talking about their lives, so it was something that she'd read and she wanted to ask him about. I I don't think it was wrong at all. I thought the way George kind of was a bit shocked about it is what shocked me. I thought, well, you kind of know what you're getting put in for. You know that people are going to ask you questions, and you just got to be honest about them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And almost as well, we saw George was trying to say that Scarlett was doing it on purpose when Matt got asked the difficult questions. Do you think that she was trying to give Matt a get out of jail free card when he got asked that question?
I think there's certain people in the camp that kind of help Matt out a little bit more than others. And I do think Scarlett is one of them. I don't think she likes it when Boy George kind of gets him on his own and starts trying to ask him loads of questions. So I think sometimes she does do it. I think her and Sean have got Matt's back a little bit more than anyone else. So maybe she did give him a little get out of jail free card. But yeah, like I say, you can't be somebody who asks questions but then gets offended if somebody asks you one.
Yeah, that's true. And do you think Boy George, is the pressure? I know he meditates every day, but is the pressure mounting? Is Boy George going to explode soon?
Yeah, God, there's no amount of panting that you can do. He's gonna lose. He's gonna lose it soon, 100%. He'll be sat there, and then something will happen, and I think a couple more days, something will be said or something will be done, and I don't know if he'll go totally like kind of anger, because he's still quite aware that the cameras are there. But I do think he'll snap a little bit more, and you'll see maybe him get a bit more aggravated, especially with the lack of sleep and the lack of food. And you can see Chris as well. Chris is getting annoyed at all the meditation, and you saw him eye roll yesterday. And I think quite a lot of people on the outside could relate with Chris with that. So yeah, I think people are starting to get a little bit fed up with each other now.
Yeah, it will probably be over like the most minor thing in the world.
Yeah, it'll be about mushrooms again or something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay, so we're coming into the final week now. And you obviously made it all the way, you were runner-up. So what's the final week in the jungle like?
It's quite a weird one because people start to leave. So the dynamic of the camp changes every kind of day. It gets smaller and smaller. And I think the main chat that you chat about is kind of like seeing your friends and seeing your family and getting out and what you're going to do and stuff like that. So yeah, it does change. But I think some people, I never really thought about winning because I never thought I was going to until I got to like the last three, and then I was like, oh my gosh, imagine if I actually won. Do you know what I mean? But I imagine there'll be some people in there thinking, right, am I going to win? Am I not? But again, I think a lot will go down from tonight's eviction when they kind of gauge on who's going out. Then that's when you'll see maybe a little bit of a shift. Will people start playing the game differently? You are ready for home at this point. You want to see your family. You want to get some nice food. But for me and my personal experience, it was such a great experience to do it. Do you know what I mean? I never thought I'd get to go on Amsterdam to get me out of here. So I was loving every second. I never really wanted it to end. I obviously missed my friends and family, but I was like, this is brilliant. But some of them will be ready for home now, and some of them won't really care if they get voted out. They'll just be thinking, boom, I get a week in the Versace hotel. So yeah, there's a lot of change in this week. So it'll be interesting to kind of keep your eyes on it and see how things change.
Yeah, I think this year's a bit different. And from yours, I don't know what the process was like when you first got to Australia, but these guys obviously had to go through a really long lockdown. They've obviously had to go through the initial 2 weeks. They've been there a long time in the jungle already.
Yeah.
Do you think any of them are sort of focusing on just getting through it now and just getting to the end?
I think quite a lot of them are. You can see, like you see Owen with his food. I think he's really having to kind of focus on getting through it. But I feel like this year they've struggled quite a bit, and they've not had like many days where they've not had many starters. The past few days they've done a bit shocking when it wasn't Matt doing the trials, but they've eaten okay. Like the hammock, I slept in a hammock for 3 weeks and I never really minded it. I thought it was quite cool. But yeah, you can see a lot of them are struggling with the sleeping, with the food. So I imagine like maybe being in the lockdown for a few weeks because of COVID and all stuff like this, they are probably ready for home now. But I think still most of them in there will really want to win. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you say that. Do you reckon there's anyone in particular that's really got their eyes on the prize? Like they're in it to the end, they're going to win. Do you think any of them feel that already?
I think Matt would love to win. I think Matt would definitely love to win. I think Chris would like to win. to be fair, I think most of them would like to win, but I think the main one who wants to win is probably Matt. Like, he's already said that he's in there for forgiveness. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's the way that he would think that he's been forgiven, is if he won the show. But I don't think it's going to happen. I hope Jill wins myself. I think Jill's been great. I think she's not moaned. She's got on with things. She was good at the trial last night. Cockroach got stuck in her ear. And she just seems like a lovely person. So yeah, I don't think Matt will win. I think Mike's another one who's kind of just got on with it and kept his head down. Maybe not done a lot because there's been other kind of storylines in there. You've got to think they've only got an hour out of 24 hours. And if they're not involved or not doing a trial, it looks like they're not doing much, but they might be holding the camp together. Do you know what I mean? Mike might be the main one that's holding everything together. So yeah, I think Mike and Jill and Owen will probably be the final three.
I think, like you say, I think tonight's eviction will really sort of let them into maybe how the public are reacting to them, and it'll sort of get in their heads as to do they think people are liking them, do they think they will make it to the end. So I think you're right in that tonight's will really show what the end
100%.
might possibly look like.
100%. Let's all watch tonight and see how it unfolds.
Tune in for sure. So we've done a few stories this week in the Mirror about the actual camp and how it looks from the camp people's side. Obviously, what we see on TV is the jungle setting and things like that, but we've found out there's a big lighting rig above and stuff like that, and obviously there has to be cameras.
Yeah.
Is there anything that we don't see in the jungle that you as campmates see?
Well, you don't see the cameramen when you're in the actual camp because they're in rocks. So you never see the cameramen when you're in camp in your hammocks and stuff. But there's also, like, you see the cameramen when you walk into your trials. There's usually a cover over the camp to try and stop everyone getting drenched when it rains. But saying that, a bit of rain still gets in. So there's a cover over. I never really saw lighting when I was in there. Maybe I was oblivious to it because I was just like, wow, I'm in the jungle. But yeah, apart from that, like the camp is the camp. You don't really see much else apart from each other.
Yeah. And like you said, you just said you were really excited about being in the jungle. I've always wondered, does it actually feel like you're in a jungle? I've always imagined like behind the cameras is a Costa coffee. Like, does it feel like you're in a jungle?
Yeah, it feels like you're in a jungle. Yeah, you don't see much of anything else. I remember the year that I did it, one of the cameramen had a Tic Tac, and that was the first time I'd seen any food in like 5 days, like different food. It was like 5 days into me getting in there. I was like, oh, Tic Tacs. And they never talk to you or like that. So I was like, can I have a Tic Tac? And he just like shook his head, and he probably shouldn't have got them out. But yeah, it's you don't see much. There's no coffees. There's nothing. There's just literally trees, bridges, and then when you get to the trials, you see Ant and Dec and the cameramen, and that's it.
Perfect. Okay. Well, so finally, in case you missed it earlier, who's going tonight?
Charlene will go tonight, I think. I'm going to say Charlene will go. No fault of her own, apart from the fact that she's not had much airtime and she's kind of gone under the radar. But I think Charlene will probably go tonight.
Well, let's see what happens. I'm a Celeb on tonight. It's the first eviction. Looking forward to it.
It is. Me too. And I'll see you next week for the last one.
See you next week.
See you later.